Doc, my nurse practitioner told me earlier this year that I have prediabetes, and now you're telling me that I'm diabetic. I'm confused. I don't understand this. What did I do wrong? What could I have done to decrease the chance of my prediabetes turning into diabetes? Well, that is what I'm going to answer for you today. 6 things you can do to prevent your prediabetes from turning into type 2 diabetes. Before we get into it, I'm Dr. Amina, a physician and a health coach, and I help you get your blood sugar levels to normal and keep them there without deprivation. And we do this so that you can have great energy levels throughout the day, so that you can avoid food cravings and therefore decrease the chance of weight gain, especially as you grow older, and so that you can live a longer, overall healthier life. We're going to dive into this one quickly. 6 things you can do to decrease the chance of your prediabetes turning into diabetes. Now, the first thing is, one, to know that prediabetes is actually diabetes, but it's earlier stages of diabetes before you have complications, before you need medications. It is at a stage where you can manage it by changing your diet and your lifestyle, etc. I don't like the word prediabetes. I think it's a misnomer. It's misleading because people think, oh, I'm not diabetic yet. I have time, maybe in a few years I might have to worry a little bit more about this. But prediabetes and diabetes share the same root cause, and that cause is insulin resistance. And with prediabetes, you have mild insulin resistance, which your body's able to sort of control blood glucose levels to an extent, right? To where you're not having the serious damage to your organs. We call this end organ damage. So damage to your eyes, damage to your kidneys, damage to your nerves. Now there's probably some preliminary damage going on, but it's not that obvious damage that we can pick up on blood tests, okay? So because many people think that they're not diabetic yet, they don't take the necessary precautions that everybody knows that a diabetic should take. And so the first thing in preventing progression of your prediabetes is to think of it as diabetes, because it is diabetes, but just in earlier stages. First thing, okay? Second thing is, this is pretty obvious, but to decrease the chance of your prediabetes going to diabetes, you have to decrease your sugar intake. Increased sugar levels all the time in your blood overwhelms your body. It overwhelms insulin, and what happens as a result of these increased levels of sugar coming in all the time is that the body stops responding to insulin. It becomes insulin resistant, okay? The root cause, like I said, of both prediabetes and diabetes, which are really the same thing. You must decrease the amount of sugar getting into your system. Sugar in all forms, right? So simple sugars, right, like the regular sweet, sucrose. There's milk sugar as well, and then there's also starch, which is, I guess you can say, a complex sugar, so to speak. Starch is a string of sugar molecules, and it breaks right down into glucose in your bloodstream. So you must decrease the amount of sugar and starch going into your body. You must decrease the speed at which these things go into your body as well, and then you decrease the insulin resistance and even reverse insulin resistance so that you can revert to a normal metabolic functioning level, okay? Third thing to do is essentially to increase your activity. And the reason why increased activity helps to decrease the chance of you going on to get diabetes is because it enables you to burn more sugar. So you may be taking in sugar, right? Or you may even be taking in normal amounts of sugar. But if your activity level is going down, down, down as the years go by, you're going to be burning less sugar because, when we move and use our muscles and so on, the muscles need energy to be able to function, and that energy especially will come from sugar, the other nutrients in the food as well, but definitely from sugar. So if you're not burning sugar, it means that you have more sugar in your blood floating around that needs to go somewhere, and eventually the body struggles to manage and put away this sugar, and that's when insulin resistance develops and your prediabetes progresses to diabetes, okay? So definitely you need to burn more sugar. Fourth thing that you need to do is monitor your A1C. So a lot of people get the diagnosis of prediabetes, and then they relax because, again, like I said, they think, oh, I'm fine, I'm safe for a while, I'm safe for a few years, right? They don't really take it seriously, and so they don't go and get checked. And so a few years will go by, but in some cases just a few months, and then they go to the doctor with some sort of complication or a diabetic coma or something, and then for the first time they realize, oh my goodness, like this happened overnight. It seems that I went from prediabetes to diabetes. if somebody gives you a diagnosis of prediabetes, you need to take that seriously. You need to implement the changes that we're talking about here, and then you need to go and follow up with your doctor in 3-4 months or so to see the effect of those changes. Has there been an improvement in your A1C level? Has it decreased from 6.4% down to 6%, or is it now 5.7%? And at the start, I probably should have defined prediabetes. Essentially, it's when you have A1C levels that are greater than 5.7, about 5.7% to 6.4%. By definition, diabetes type 2 is an A1C of 6.5% and more. But like I said, it's all the same thing, but just different stages. Okay, so you need to go to the doctor and get checked to monitor the effect of the changes that you're making to see if you're going back down in the right direction. Another thing you can do when you go to the doctor, another thing to monitor, is actually the insulin level, your fasting insulin level. Because if you go to the doctor, ask them for fasting insulin test, and your fasting insulin level is approaching 10 or more, that is proof that you have insulin resistance. When you have insulin resistance, your levels of insulin are chronically high. It never gets to come down. If your fasting insulin level is 5 and less, then chances are you're doing pretty good. So you're going to want to monitor that level. If it's high, you're going to want to go back and get it checked to see that it's actually coming down over time. Okay. Fifth thing to check, or to do rather, to decrease the chance of your prediabetes going into diabetes is to make less sugar. So yes, we talk about taking in less sugar and burning more sugar, but also our bodies make sugar. So some people will say they do everything, they eat healthy and clean, and they exercise, and they're doing all the things, but they're in a constant state of stress. And in that constant stressful state, the body's producing lots of cortisol, the stress hormone. And what cortisol does is that it tells the body to make more sugar in preparation for whatever that stress is. Unfortunately, the stress in many times is sort of psychological, mental, and so on. It's not, an alligator or tiger coming after you, but the body processes it the same way and prepares for it the same way. And so it makes sugar in preparation for you to act and respond and get away from that stress. And in that constant state of stress and fuming, you are having lots of glucose in your system, and it's promoting that same insulin resistance that we talked about in the beginning. And so your prediabetes can go ahead into diabetes. Okay, we have to find smart ways of stress. Everybody has a different way of stress, but it's not one of the things out, when you read up on the internet and so on, they talk about yoga and meditation. I have a hard time meditating. I'm sure many people do. And just these kind of airy-fairy things that really, in the grand scheme of things, like nobody has time to go meditate and, maybe even take a walk because you're so busy working and so on and so forth. But for me, a lot of it is just kind of how you process it mentally. And the book that I recommend to a lot of people, it's one of the books I've gifted to a lot of people, is a book called The 4 Agreements. And you should check that book out. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. And my favorite agreement is always do your best. So a lot of times we beat ourselves up because we think, oh no, we made a mistake, we did bad, we're not good enough, and so on and so forth. But when you read that book and it explains to you about doing your best, and about the fact that you can only do your best. It's impossible to do anything but your best, and that your best will vary day by day, moment by moment. But once you know that you set out at the beginning of every day to do your best, there's no point in beating yourself up, because you know in your heart you did your best and it was impossible to do anything but your best. Another agreement in that book is don't take anything personally. A lot of times stress comes from just kind of being sad about what other people think about us, what they've said about us. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what people say about you. Okay, what matters is you, how you feel about yourself, how you think about yourself. So if you buy that book and really read over and over again, it's one of those small books that you can sort of take it up and read a chapter or section, from time to time. And over time, I think that might help your ability to process stress and help your blood sugar levels, because you're not fuming in all that glucose. And then the last thing to help decrease the chance of your prediabetes going into diabetes is don't drink alcohol. Now, I know it's popular to drink alcohol. I used to drink alcohol, never heavily, but I used to drink alcohol. But the more I learn about alcohol, the more I realize that alcohol stresses your liver to the max. It's a toxin, it's a poison, it does nothing good, it only does bad. I mean, okay, yeah, alcohol has been a part of existence since biblical times, but the extent to which people are consuming alcohol now is just outright dangerous. Alcohol stresses the liver. A sick liver cannot process sugar properly or glucose properly. A sick liver promotes the development of diabetes. So if you have prediabetes and your liver is stressed and sick and you have fatty liver, you will go on to develop prediabetes. In fact, we know that almost all diabetics almost all alcoholics actually have diabetes. There's something called hepatogenous diabetes, and it's just the extensive fatty liver that alcoholics get that makes it impossible for them to process glucose efficiently and store glucose efficiently and so on. And so these people keep high blood sugar levels. And in the same way, if you are drinking lots of alcohol and the liver has to stop everything else it's doing, including processing sugar, just so that it processes the poisonous alcohol, you're going to struggle. If you're doing that every few days, every weekend, if you're binging and the liver never gets a chance to recover, then you will struggle with managing blood glucose levels and you will go on to develop type 2 diabetes. Okay, so these are 6 things that you should definitely do to decrease the chance of your prediabetes turning or progressing to type 2 diabetes quickly. Understand that prediabetes is diabetes, so don't take it lightly. 2, decrease your sugar and starch intake. 3, increase your physical activity so that you can burn more sugar. 4, you need to monitor, know where you're going, monitor your A1C levels, and most likely, if possible, your fasting insulin level. 5, make less sugar, so stress less. And 6, don't drink alcohol, period. Hope you all found this helpful. If you know anybody who would benefit from watching this video, definitely share it with them. And thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye.